you know that these DSs and the riders, once they get into the races, are going to want to perform. But we didn't make that a priority because we have such a long runway with the team. But every year, performance is going to tick up that list. And by the time it gets to the top of that list, I think we will be ready to make that leap into hopefully the World Tour, because yeah, we had two objectives on this team: to keep 50% Americans on the roster at all time and to be in the Tour de France in 5 to 6 years.
I looked at it as a big opportunity to make an impact on the sport we all love so much. And yeah, I mean, it was definitely a big commitment. I created a long-term vision to try to create America's dream team and get a team into the Tour de France. So it was something I couldn't pass up.
You're listening to Endurance Unlimited, a TrainingPeaks podcast for athletes and coaches, no matter what you're training for. Dial in those workouts with deep insights and cutting-edge science from the most prominent voices in the endurance and hybrid sports world.
Before we get into the show, we've been adding and updating several features in TrainingPeaks and TrainingPeaks Virtual and wanted to share a few highlights. Check out our YouTube channel for a more detailed discussion with our president, Lee Girakos. Okay, let's get started. Be sure to stick around for the discussion with George Hincapie and Bobby Julich.
We haven't had you on the pod for a while, but we need to do this more often because we have a lot of new stuff that has just been released within TrainingPeaks and more to come. So let's cover off on some of the highlights. When people log in on the web app, they'll see a new button for Analyze 360.
Yes, when you go in to analyze your workout, instead of just having our historical analysis view, we now have Analyze 360. That has three main components to it. One is around the workout analysis, but what is new is that every single channel within that fit file that you record is now broken out. You can customize your charts. We have auto interval detection that will pick out strong efforts within that ride. And you can create your own custom overlays within there to understand the interaction between certain things. So I've seen it used quite heavily when it comes to low cadence, high torque intervals to see power and torque relationships between that. We also have the second tab within there is our power analysis. So our 90-day power analysis curve and power duration model. So within there, we have modeled FTP as well as FRC, which is functional reserve capacity. You can think about that as your battery to go above efforts within that power duration curve for a period of time. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, we have a lap comparison. So as you're doing those workouts and those sessions and you want to compare intervals over time, you can pick multiple intervals and then look at the variation between them across key metrics, whether it is power, heart rate, cadence, variability index, intensity factor, et cetera.
Yeah.
So it really gives you the ability to have that 360 view of that workout.
Yeah. So I think the highlights are when new devices come out, we got you covered. We have all kinds of new channels in there, even the gear you're in, for example, and bringing metrics from WKO to the web, which is a lot of the pro teams have been leveraging for a long time, kind of bringing it to the masses now. And auto interval detection, that is awesome. I stop hitting the lap button now because it's finding my intervals for me, and which is really time saving for the coach as well.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And as you said, we were looking to bring the best of WKO5 to TrainingPeaks. That has been the big ask from coaches, is to have that universal view.
Yeah. TrainingPeaks Virtual, it's a big deal. And it changes every week. What's the highlights in TrainingPeaks Virtual these days?
Yeah, we've been making a ton of enhancements within that product. Most recently, and what you'll be seeing is enhancements to the visual environment, the graphics within there. The world is much more populated. There are many more towns and features to see within the environment that did not exist before. So we have Peaksville, which is our new mountain town near the top of Ice Mountain. We have a tech center. You'll see an area where there's a bunch of balloons that have been launched. And it's really just to make a much more fun, engaging experience while you're also training. Additionally, we have a feature that we released late last year called GP Explorer. GP Explorer allows you to take any course, any GPX file that exists that you've ever ridden, that you've ever desired
or anybody else has ridden,
or anyone else has ridden, and bring it into the virtual environment. And what we did was dynamically generate an island landscape around you. Now we've improved that to actually pull elevation data from satellite imagery and build the landscape around you as it exists in the real world.
Yeah.
So when you go climb a mountain like Flagstaff Mountain, you see the features of Flagstaff Mountain as you would in real life. And the beauty of that is that you can ride any ride in the world, and that satellite imagery
Or
will be
Recon, a
regenerated.
race coming up.
Exactly.
into-
So when we think about Training Peaks Virtual, we really want to marry the indoors and the outdoors. And so many of our athletes and coaches working with athletes are doing this
Yeah.
to prepare for events. And so now, if you're traveling around the world to do a race, you can upload any course, no matter how big or small that race might be, and get an experience of what that'll look
Yeah.
like and know what you're up for.
Yeah, and coaches can tee this up too. So the athlete may not know about this feature, but the coach should be like, hey, next Wednesday, let's recon whatever climb in preparation for the race. So they can kind of tee that up for their athletes. And then strength. So another big component of Training Peaks that's been out for over a year now is Training Peaks strength capability. So tell us what's coming out soon around that.
Sure. So strength, in terms of what we've built to date, allows you to really have discrete structure in your strength session. So you can record all your sets, reps, and weights for every exercise and track it over time. With that, we've added the ability to add and remove sets depending upon how, your workout's going, right? Like just not every day is your best day.
Or you don't have the gear.
And you may not have the gear around that. And so we're allowing more customization over time within that strength workout.
Yeah.
But within Training Peaks, what we've really allowed for is the ability for you to plan all your sessions, which you've always done, to ride those workouts in virtual, and now to track all your strength across sport.
Well, there's other stuff coming that I'm loving. Can't mention it yet. So everybody dig in and see all the new stuff that's in there, and more to come soon. And I'm super excited. Thanks for having it.
Cool. Thank you, Dirk.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Today, we're diving into the heart of the cycling peloton with two American cycling legends, George Hincapie and Bobby Julich. Both now have dreams of cycling success in a new way via their newly formed Modern Adventure Pro Cycling team. George Hincapie is the co-founder of the team, and his longtime friend and fellow Tour de France veteran, Bobby Julich, serves as the team's head of high performance. We're breaking down the DNA of their new project, from the why behind the team's inception to their blistering success in their very first races. We also get into the nitty-gritty of their recruitment strategy and their massive ambition for the future of the team. Whether you're a weekend warrior or a hardcore racing fan, you won't want to miss this look inside America's newest pro cycling team. I feel like I've pulled off a big coup. I've got George Hincapie and Bobby Julich at the very same time on a podcast here live. Well, we're not going live, but I'm talking to them live. So, well, you guys have pulled it off. Hopefully the hardest part is behind you in terms of getting this big project off the ground. It's kind of the Boeing 747 is now in the air, right? And there's hopefully not too many storms coming, but you guys have had a really smooth takeoff. Huge congratulations on this launch of Modern Adventure Cycling.
Yeah, thank you. We could not have asked for a better start. There's definitely a long road ahead, but the start was way better than we anticipated, and hopefully we can keep the momentum going.
So, George, life was pretty good. You had this clothing company, you had this hotel domestique, you're retired. Why the hell make your life difficult and take on like this insane project? What spurred you to take this on?
Oh man, I looked at it as a big opportunity to make an impact on the sport we all love so much. And yeah, I mean, it was definitely a big commitment. I created a long-term vision to try to create America's dream team and get a team into the Tour de France. So it was something I couldn't pass up. It was something I've always dreamed of, and it really it felt very purposeful to me to take that on. So it's been a long process. Crazy that 13 months later, we've already done our first World Tour race.
Yeah.
It's kind of mind-boggling how quickly it's all gone, but it's been a lot of work that got us to this point that we're at now, and it's going to continue to be a lot of work.
What has been the hardest part to date, Bobby, in terms of getting the project off the ground from your perspective?
I think it was just the decision to start. Like the best way to begin is just to begin, right? And it was about a year ago today. I'm out on a bike ride with George, and we see each other pretty much every day or talk to each other pretty much every day. And all of a sudden he turns to me and looks at me and says, "So what are you up to these days?" And I was like, "Come on, man. Like, you know what I'm up to." But I just decided to placate him a little bit. And I said, "Well, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this, and I do this." And then just casually off the cuff, I said, "You know what I miss though is having that one job that I'm fully passionate about." And he looked at me and he said, "Well, I may have something for you." And he mentioned this idea of starting a team. And we've tried this before. We've heard this a million times. And I said, "Nah, 1-year deal, 2-year deal, 3-year deal. No, I'm not really interested." He goes, "No, I think I have 6." And I said, "Okay, I'm listening." I said, "Well, George, listen, I've been retired a while. I've worked quite a few jobs. I've been part of some startup companies that didn't really get off the ground. So you give all this time, all this IP, all this information, and then 4 months, 5 months, 6 months down the road, you're sitting there with nothing, right?" So I said, "George, I'm not taking a meeting. I'm not giving you one bit of IP until you have this contract signed." So a week goes by, 2 weeks, and then he texts me and he goes, "We got it." And then sure enough, like all of a sudden that was happening. And it was all of a sudden a realization that, oh my gosh, how do we
Wow.
start? Where do we
Mhm.
start? I think it was early March for like our first little meeting, and it was just George, myself, his brother Rich, and Ty Magner. And we've got all these names of riders up on the big screen, and it's just like, wait a second, how are we going to do this? And then Rich had told me that he had spoken with Ty Magner, Alex Howes, and Joey Roscoff, and those were going to be our DSs. So we were like, okay, this is our nucleus of the team here. We just started building in layer after layer after layer of the organization. And then I'll never forget, we got done with this call and all of us are on there, the 3 DSs, myself, Rich, and George. And then right at the end, when everybody's saying goodbye, George goes, "Okay, Bobby, start calling riders." Like, I'm old. I don't know any of these young American riders. I said, "I know you guys expect me to pick this team, but I really think that we would be making a mistake if we didn't really depend or use the knowledge of our directors that are very in tune to the sport over here in the US." And by that time, yeah, we had a lot of people DMing us, hitting us up on Instagram, emails, phone calls, saying that they were interested in the team. And yeah, how do you sift through all that? It was really a challenge. And as a management team, we just came up with a pretty simple selection criteria. And we really wanted to focus on the culture and the character of these riders. So, we looked, these DSs with their finger on the pulse of the cycling, they were able to make some calls pretty easily right away. But when you have, I don't know, at least 100 people sending in resumes, it was very, very difficult to at least narrow that down to 20. We wanted to have 21. That was our goal. And I think we are the first and only team in history to have the DS group select
Wow.
what 80% of the riders, I'd say, came from the DS recommendations.
Wow.
And honestly, when we started narrowing that list down and it got to that 2021 riders, I'll admit it, I knew by name maybe 5 of those riders. And then it was like, okay, we need a little bit of data on these guys. So from a 50,000 foot view, I sent these guys an email and it was pretty simple instructions. It was, please take a screenshot of your performance management chart from like 2024 and 2025, as well as like your 2024 compared to 2025 grid comparison of the
Power duration curves and
yeah, but it was in
mean
grid view,
max.
so it was just numbers, right?
Yeah.
And really, that was as scientific as we got. And
Yeah.
I kind of laughed at it. Like, I don't want to ask for these riders' TrainingPeaks username and password. It was almost a test because it was very, very topical information. And I wanted to see if these riders could read an email, respond to simple instructions, and then return that email in a timely fashion. And I told the guys, I said, listen, this may take 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks before we get responses from these guys, because that's what I'm kind of used to, is like, oh, I don't want to share my data, even if it's a screenshot of something. Like, I had responses back of those 20 guys. I had those responses back before I even finished sending the last email. It was
Wow.
amazing how the writers have changed their I guess comfort level with sharing
The culture. The culture's changed. But
yeah.
But George, you also, I mean, this is a team meant to develop American talent. It's not 100% American. But how do you go about that, developing American talent with 21 spots?
Well, the mandate for the team will be a minimum of 50% American riders moving forward throughout the history of our throughout the future of our team. It'll always be a minimum of 50. We have 60%, I believe, for the next 2 years. And yeah, just continue to find, this new talent. There's such a big gap between World Tour American riders to continental American riders. There's nothing in between, and it's really hard. One, you can't make a living like that. Two, is like the sport's hard enough. If you're not able to make ends meet financially, it just makes it even that much harder. So at least we're giving them like a decent wage, and we're giving them opportunities to race the biggest races in the world against the best riders in the world, which they were not getting before that. And that's our plan, is to continue to do that. Obviously, as we grow the team, we're gonna have to grow the roster, perhaps get bigger riders. But for the next 2 years, we're gonna try to develop the guys that we have now, and hopefully they grow with us. I mean, my goal has always been, if the riders we hired are better than they were before we hired them, that's already a big success for me, and even more importantly than results wise.
Yeah.
Now we're actually getting some results which we weren't even expecting, but that's just sort of icing on the cake, and hopefully we continue to do that.
How about some of the culture, the ethos, that Bobby mentioned? You kind of lead with culture in a way, because you're not leading with results. You're not hiring the biggest and the best, right? So tell us a little more about the culture you're trying to build there and how you sold these guys on the team.
Yeah, so part of the process, the recruiting process, was, of course, seeing their data, but also asking everybody in their circles everything we could about that particular person we were hiring, to see what kind of person they were, what kind of personality they were, and we really just wanted to hire good people. No asshole policy. I don't know if you're allowed to curse on this one, but that was our
We've
main
allowed it a bit
thing.
here and there. It's all good.
If we had some hotshot American that had some crazy good numbers, but if a couple of people said, no, this guy's not that nice, or he's kind of an asshole, we were not interested. So we wanted to create a good culture that we knew that when these guys got into the team bus, they would be laughing, and they would be really having a good time with their teammates and the people around them. And that, to me, really is a major part of what makes teams successful. Some of my most fondest memories are like in the bus in HTC with Mark Cavendish and some of those guys. They were super fun to be around, and it just made you want to perform well for them. And I felt like it really helped create a successful atmosphere.
Yeah, definite. Bobby, any more around the culture from your side?
It was everything. I was a member of quite a few professional teams, and not many of them were great. But then I had the honor of when my career was basically over. I was about to retire in 2003 because I didn't have a contract. I became part of a team that everyone knows as Team CSC. And it was very much exactly what George just described about HTC and BMC. We just started to have fun again, and we would commit to each other.
Yeah.
And Bjarne Riis was an amazing leader, and he showed us a way of not only can you go out there and really kick some butt, but you could actually have fun. And I'm still best friends with most of the guys that I raced with there. And
Yeah.
George and I, we've been on good teams, we've been on bad teams, and we just wanted to create that culture of the best scenario. And we mapped it out because our overall plan, when we were young, that pathway to Europe was like a 4-lane highway, and now it's like a 1-lane bike path. And we on those rides and at the beginning at all these meetings, we just said, hey, we want to create a team that we would have wanted to be on, that we would have been proud to say we're a part of. And we have a lot of experience. We are both in our 50s, maybe not uber connected to that younger group, but we don't want to do what we did 10, 20, 30 years ago. We kind of want to rip up the script and just start totally new. And obviously we have some ideas, but at the same time, we have to listen to the young generation, the riders. Give them a voice, let them communicate what they need, what they want, what makes them happy. Same with the staff. And on so many teams that I was a part of that I didn't really enjoy, that wasn't an option. You did things the way that they were done because that's the way that the management was comfortable doing it. But
Yeah.
George and I will put our hands up, and the DSs as well. None of us have any experience of what we're doing right now, right?
Mhm.
But we all have experience in the sport, and we'll figure it out. And
Yeah.
and I think we've done a really good job of that so far.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing because you guys definitely know the old traditional ways of cycling, but yet you're coming to this project with a fresh outlook, which is kind of amazing that you wouldn't just go back in terms of doing the old ways. And one moment that I saw that happen, and you guys were both there at the dinner table at training camp in Girona, is the DSs were there and they were talking about a Lula tour, which was like 2 weeks away. And they're like, should we just put the team on the front, the very first stage? Like just show the world we're here? And you guys are like, heck yeah, let's do it. Like, let's just get on the front and show everybody. And like that that played out, right? That kind of like fresh start, but yet we're here to play. And, I don't know, it's just a different way. It's not like just sit back and get your teeth kicked in.
Yeah, I mean that made me very nervous, not gonna lie, because that was my old school mentality. Jumped in, I was like, wait, what? And then like, what? Kind of in my head, I'm like, why would we do that? But then, the goal of that race was just ride together as a team, and whether that meant like get on the front early on in that first stage or ride together in the wind, and we did above and beyond that. So it was great to see, and not only that, but I think like it really helped motivate the rest of the team watching it on TV. Like, hey, we're actually part of a legit organization. We're going to work even harder to try to mimic the results that these guys are doing. So it was a great. I mean, it was amazing that we even got the invitation to Alula, being a first year team. Getting an invitation to an ASO event is already a huge deal, but we went above and beyond, and the organizers were really happy. They talked about the team on TV all the time. It just was a super successful way to start the year.
Yeah, for those that don't know, you got 4th overall GC and you were 2nd on the Queen stage. I mean, right behind Team
Yes.
UAE. So right out of the blocks, like you were just showing what you got going. That came down to a lot of, thought out training. Bobby, you're head of high performance. How did you go about building? Who's a part of the high performance team?
Well, talk to a lot of very smart people. I talked to you, I talked to Bjarne Reese, I talked to Inigo St. Milan, Rod Ellingworth, Ryan Sugaboro. I butcher his last name. He is the national team coach in the Olympic speed skating team. I reached out to a lot of people that um, just to get some advice because I've been part of big organizations before, but I kind of broke it down to my wish list of what we needed. And then, talking with Rich and George, like what we can afford in our budget. What do we have budgeted? And yes, we do not have all the bells and whistles, but I really wanted, with 21 riders, I wanted at least another performance coach and a performance scientist. And that was very, very difficult because there's so many great coaches out there and so many great scientists out there. And it was tough. It was really, really tough. And I spent a lot of time talking to many, many coaches and many, many scientists. But I could have gone back to my Rolodex or my address book of guys that I've worked together with in the past. But then I realized, wait a second, if I do that, I'm going against what we've said we want to do, which is start new with new ideas. So we after a very long, painstaking process, we decided upon Gavin Mannion, who has been working with the USA Cycling with the juniors. Really felt that he would know these guys a little bit more because he probably worked with quite a few of them coming up through the junior program. And then Ben Day is our performance scientist, and I actually met him with you at the Science and Cycling conference. I have notes after notes after notes. There was so many smart people, but when I was going through my notes, it just really hit me, like, there's a lot of really smart people in this room talking about data sets, and how I didn't hear many coaches talk about that human connection with the riders. It seemed like everyone there was doing some amazing presentations, but they were trying to like really impress each other rather than like the nuts and bolts of coaching. To me, is that coach rider relationship. I just happened to run into Ben Day and we sat there and talked, and we just clicked right away. Like I saw that he has that same philosophy as I do, is that yes, the decisions that we make are going to be driven by science and data, but we really want to focus on these young kids and the building blocks of becoming a professional cyclist, not just the end result of all this data that's being manufactured. So it was very serendipitous. I wound up having a great time with you and the Training Peaks team. Really enjoyed that conference, met our performance scientists, and here we are, like off and running.
Yeah, yeah. Another thing I remember a moment at that, well, it was at the Tour de France, but we ran into Fabian Cancellara. And I think, like, George, it feels like another Tudor in a way. I mean, didn't he start the team to help develop Swiss cycling?
Yeah.
Same kind of concept. I mean, his post-career, that was now his big focus.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we were talking about it the other day, actually, on the way back from UAE. Like, we wanted to take that same sort of, philosophy where we start off super slow, but I mean, the invitations we're getting are not in anywhere near that slow start that we had envisioned.
Yeah.
But in order to get to that level of two door, yeah, we got to just keep plugging away and trying to build the team. It's going to take a couple of years to get there. I mean, Two Door is still a pro team status, which is the same status as us, but they're the upper tiers of the pro team, and they're essentially a World Tour team because they got Grand Tour invitations, and they're a much higher level than us. But there's certainly some that we want to chase and follow in their footsteps for sure.
Yeah. Well, okay. So then you go from Alula to Delucia, just wrapped up. You had a great sprint stage there, I believe, like a top 10.
Yeah, we got third on the first stage. Ben Oliver, his first race in Europe, so we were all super excited to see that.
First race, third.
We made a couple of the big breakaways. UAE, we made every breakaway that actually mattered that people fought to get in. We were in, so we had really good races in UAE and Andalusia as well.
Yeah. And this weekend, well, this recording will come out afterwards, but Kurna Brussels Kurna is the first classic in Belgium.
Yep.
And then going on to Paris-Roubaix, that's got to be kind of scary. Think about it.
Very scary. Yeah, I mean that's the hardest race on the planet.
I mean, that's
I
your
know.
race.
Yeah, I know it quite well. I'm actually flying over on Friday to meet with the guys to do Kern Brussels
Mm.
Kern with them, and then we race Tuesday in Samin, and then Wednesday we're doing Paris-Roubaix Recon. We're testing out some
Mm.
new equipment on our new Monza. I think we're going to use the Monza frames from Factor, and using some new tires, just trying out a couple different combinations. So I'll be doing that with them on Wednesday, although I have not been able to ride as much as I normally do.
Yeah.
But hopefully I still got some
Don't believe him. Don't
cobbles
believe him.
experience.
Heck yeah, man. They got
Yeah,
e-bikes now. No.
yeah, exactly.
Bobby, sorry, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like we kind of got to back up a little bit. You know, when we were putting together this race program, the DSs were working very diligently, and every time that we finally got a working copy with everything kind of slotted in there, um, George would text us and be like, "Hey, we just got an invite to this race."
Yeah.
And that would just totally mess up everything that we had planned because he's the boss. Like if we get an opportunity to go to a Lula, which is an ASO race, we got to shift around the schedule. And then we do that, and then all of a sudden, like we're done, and all of a sudden, hey guys, we just got into the UAE tour. So rip up everything again, go back to the drawing board. And then we in the middle of training camp, all of a sudden, George drops this hammer on our heads and says, "Hey, I think we're going to get into Paris-Roubaix." So like a few months ago, our biggest race was going to be Tour of Turkey, and now we've already done a Lula.
Catalonia coming up, right?
Yeah, in Catalunya.
We've done the UAE tour. Then we have Catalunya, which is a world tour race, Paris-Roubaix, which is like the biggest race on the planet. So it's just been like this fun, um, you know, George. I told the guys at training camp here in Greenville in December that, the race program, the races that we get into is not going to be due to the rider names or the rider results. It's going to be due to George's connections or my connections. And man, has that come to fruition. And, the number one real focus that we have from day one is we want to create excitement. And if you're not excited about American cycling, um, you're watching the wrong sport, because it's not just our team, but creating excitement is not just surrounding our team. It's for those kids that, just got finished with NICA or just got finished with collegiate cycling and are like, hey, I have no options. There's no other American teams. I'm not at that level of the Matteo Jorgensen, the Sepp Kuss, the Quinn Simmons right now. I'm going to have to just either, start doing gravel criterium racing or find a real job. But now they have inspiration. And like number two, the second priority was image. We wanted to look good. And I'm super happy with the jersey design that George came up with, burgundy and gold with the white helmet and the white shoes. We are very distinctive in the peloton. You can pick us out pretty easily from the helicopter footage. So our bike sponsors are great. Our clothing sponsors are great. Like the image, I think we can put a check mark next to that. Number three was professionalism. Like I wanted these guys to really be happy and not complain about what they didn't have, because most of these, there's quite a few guys on this team that weren't getting paid last year. One kid in particular, where I won't mention his name, and maybe more, didn't get paid at all and actually had to pay his own way to the race. So his own plane ticket. So, hey, listen, we don't have all the amenities of a World Tour team. We don't have a kitchen truck. We don't have 3 buses. We don't have a fleet of 20 cars. But like, just be professional and appreciate what you have, and then kind of take it on the chin, because yeah, we are going to be punching above our weight a lot of the times. And number 4, which I think is the most important, and it seems like at least in my eyes that it's not really a priority, is let's just have fun. We're not curing cancer out there. We're racing bikes. And then ironically, 5th on that list for us, or for me, in my opinion, is performance. But when you don't give that pressure, and performance is part of sport regardless, that these DSs and the riders, once they get into the races, are going to want to perform. But we didn't make that a priority because we have such a long runway with the team. But every year, performance is going to tick up that list. And by the time it gets to the top of that list, I think we will be ready to make that leap into hopefully the World Tour. Because yeah, we have 2 objectives on this team: to keep 50% Americans on the roster at all time, and to be in the Tour de France in 5 to 6 years. I thought it was going to be that 5th or 6th year, but the way that we've started out, it could be earlier than that. And that is so motivating and so exciting for not only us involved with the team, but the creating the fan base. People are excited, and hopefully we can really do some amazing things for American cycling.
Yeah, I mean, you guys came out just stellar, done great results. Looks like you're having a lot of fun. There's a lot of smiles at the finish lines I'm seeing, in social. And George, hamming it up with the team there on the start line and such. George, what's the definition of success after this first year?
That our riders are better riders than they were coming into our program. They're more complete riders. They're more experienced. They've raced some of the biggest races in the world, and we have made an impact in developing primarily American cyclists, but also just young cyclists from all over the world.
Well, it shows that, I mean, when I see your results, it gives me the sense that there's a lot of great American talent. I mean, you did this overnight, and you had basically some World Tour results, like top 10, 2nd place, 4th, top, there's more talent out there yet to be brought to these races.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we just started the year. We raced 3 races, and like we've made a huge impact. We've been the talk of the peloton, not only from directors, managers, TV, media. It's been wild. It's been overwhelming. So just hoping we can keep that momentum. Obviously, Belgium, as you know, Dirk quite well, is a complete different animal. But like hopefully the guys are race without fear. They continue to race the way they have been racing, which is super aggressive and not intimidated, and riding together as a team. That's all we can ask for. And so far they've done that above and beyond.
And Bobby, as a coach, how do you take a kid that's just been racing NICA or domestically, and is there a big change up in the training? Or are you like, how do you even manage that, like that whole step up in terms of like training? What are the biggest differences?
I wouldn't say there's much change in the training. There is no secret sauce here. I think the number one thing that we've done is given them their confidence. We've shown them, not told them, that we're going to support them. And that was one of the biggest selling points. Is from day one, I said, George, we need to under-promise and over-deliver to these kids. And that's what we've done. And, when you look at our results this year so far, we really had to be strategic, because in America, it's wintertime, right? But we do have some riders from the Southern Hemisphere. So we really leaned on them, the 2 South African kids, the 2 Kiwi kids, the Colombian kid. We really leaned on them because we said these guys are going to be able to come out a little bit hot. They're going to be doing their national championships. They're going to be riding in good weather. With the American guys, we knew, hey, there's a few guys that we can light up for this early season, but we still have a lot of guys that haven't raced yet, and primarily are American guys or have done very, very few races. So I'm super excited to see those guys start to come into the fold. Tyler Stites, Scott McGill, Robin Carpenter, he raced with us a little bit already. Brody McDonald. These are kids that I think want to be a bike racer, but no one ever believed in them and supported in them enough to help them get to Europe, be supported in Europe, have that kind of support system, not just, hey, we're going to, pay for your own ticket, get to Europe, and then we're going to take you around Europe for a couple weeks. Like a lot of these guys are committing to moving to Girona, to really embracing the sport. And I think 80% of our guys live in or around Girona, so they can train together. So really, there's nothing that's really changed besides us really going out of our way to provide support, not just monetary support, but equipment support, training support. Obviously, we're not a World Tour team. We don't have a staff of 50 that are just waiting there to hand and foot on these guys. So they're having to invest in themselves a little bit, which I think is a big part of development. And it's just been fun because once you give a guy confidence and once you allow them to have a voice in what they're doing, the legs start to turn in a totally different way. And it's not the analytical part. It's not the wearables. It's not the data streams. It's they're just happy and they're supported. And I think that was one of the coolest things in our last debrief of the UAE tour is I looked around the room and I said, you were nowhere last year. You were nowhere last year. This is your first professional race, for goodness sake, with Ezra Caudell. I mean, he's 19 years old. His first race was a World Tour race, and he made the breakaway on the 7th stage. The voice of the team said, this room is full of guys that have been supported and feel secure for the first time in our careers. And look at us now. And so far, with the help of our amazing staff, our amazing management, we're on a sailboat all together instead of our own individual rowboats. And man, it is a cool feeling. And everyone in the organization, rider, staff, management, sponsors, we need to be proud of that. And we need to protect that because, man, one bad apple spoils the bunch. And, we've all seen it. You hire like some rock star rider, for UCI points and for notoriety and for race invites. And it's the wrong leader. And the team kind of falls apart. So we have a long way to go. We have a lot to learn, but the cool thing is if we fail, we're going to fail fast, and then we're going to learn from it and move on. And I told the guys at the end of Alula, and then again at the end of UAE, remember this feeling of success, this feeling of overperforming. Remember this feeling during the bad days. And we're going to have our fair share of them for sure. But together, it's going to be a lot of fun if we stick to our guns here and continue this sort of success.
So, George, what do you tell the boys before the start in the bus in Kurna this weekend?
It's going to be nonstop. Find your way in that washing machine. Anticipate. It's all about anticipation. Always moving up. And always being ultra aware. I mean, in Belgium, you don't have time to chat with your buddies. It's all about awareness in the peloton, saving energy, staying safe, of course. But you got to take big risks in a race like Belgium. So I'm sure I'll refine it a bit more than that. I didn't think about it, but I'm excited. I mean, it's opening weekend. The fact that we're there, it's a big deal.
And might be the first snowy race. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
But Derek, can you imagine So one of the things that we did was send out a pretty long questionnaire to the riders to get to kind of know them before we met them at training camp in Greenville back in December. And one of the questions was, I think there was 100 questions, but one of them was, who is your idol in cycling? And I'd say at least 50 or 60% said George Hincapie. And now he's in the room for the pre-race meetings. He's in the room for the debriefs. He's in the car. Like, I never raced Paris-Roubaix. Probably one of the, the few regrets that I have in my career is at least not trying it, right? Back in the day, they wouldn't let me even close to the cobbled classics, right? They were like, no, that's not happening. But like for those kids to be in that room and hearing George's name on the race radio, wow, what an advantage, right? Because he's forgotten more about Paris-Roubaix than any of us even know, and
I'm sure
it's gonna be cool, and for these kids to have that and to have him as a resource and to walk down the stairs of the bus through the sea of people to go to sign in at Paris-Roubaix, for me, that is success already this year, is giving those kids that opportunity, that experience with this man by their side.
Yeah, George, you're going to be on the edge of your seat that whole entire you're
yeah.
going to be like, oh my God, I know this turn. You got to stay on the left side and stay on the left side here.
Yeah. Not to mention my son will be racing the junior race at the same time, so it's going to be a stressful day for us.
Oh yeah, I can say I showered in those showers once and crossed the finish line as an amateur, so it's a great experience. Yeah. But we'll see you in the States too. You guys have some races on the calendar here in the States. Where might we see you? The team.
Yeah, we'll be doing Redlands, Gila, Philadelphia, hopefully Maryland, and a couple other ones in North America. But yeah, we have a decent program, and hopefully that continues to grow as well in the next couple of years.
And nationals, of course.
And
so,
nationals, yes.
It was another big emphasis is that obviously, due to George's extensive contact list, we are getting more and more races over in Europe, and unfortunately, there's fewer and fewer races over here in the States. But we want to keep an American presence. We may not have the strongest team at these races, but we do want to keep an American presence. We do want to meet these kids that we didn't select. Maybe we didn't select them, or maybe they didn't send us a resume. We want to see these kids at these races, racing against the guys that we did select. We're fully expecting full-on onslaught of attacks on our team, but that's great. Like, we want to see that. We want these kids to come at us and say, "Hey, I'm going to prove you wrong. You should have selected me." And because that's our future roster base. And then at the end of the year or at the end of the summer, we head up and do Montreal and Quebec. So
World Championships, maybe some
World Championships, and we're gonna be busy. George, more than anyone, is going to be bouncing across the pond quite a bit, and we're going to do our best to promote cycling over here and in Europe, and hopefully see these kids on the ground at these races that could be potentially new members of the team in the future.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting to follow along the storyline for the next 6+ years. Make it a long story. It's going to be awesome. Be along for the ride. But hey, I got to get that jersey behind me here. We don't have one yet. I only have Matthew Vander. I got Vanderpool right here behind me, but got to get a Modern Adventure kit up. So
yeah, we'll get it.
Well, we got it on TrainingPeaks Virtual, so anyone out there,
kit in TrainingPeaks Virtual,
we'll be able to add you to the team.
We're going to line up some rides for the team and George coming up, so look for that. Yeah. And Bobby, we'll get you on a group ride in TrainingPeaks Virtual as well. And so man, guys, thanks so much. This is just the beginning, but it's insane. Like, a month ago being with you guys in Girona and whirlwind. So just like huge congrats, just great job. I know it's not going to be all like this every week, but great start. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dirk.
Thank you, Dirk. And thank you also for becoming a sponsor of I believe that we're the first team that you've actively sponsored. You're on our kit, not just on the bus, not just on the cars. So thank you to Training Peaks
On
and
the
the
kit,
whole
man.
organization there that are putting their money where their mouth is and supporting American cycling as well.
Awesome, guys. We'll can't wait for Peru Bay. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening to Endurance Unlimited. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on your platform of choice to never miss new episodes. Also, be sure to leave a 5-star rating to let your coach and the algorithm know you're ready to dial in your training. Find more resources to help you take on your next challenge at trainingpeaks.com or find us on social media at trainingpeaks. Got questions? Leave a comment or send an email to podcast@trainingpeaks.com. Good luck in whatever you're training for, and trust the process to reach your potential.